So I mentioned this yesterday briefly, but now I want to dig into it more that we're starting to get actual results from the Iowa caucus. Democratic candidate Mayor Pete Buttigieg is getting absolutely crushed for having declared victory in Iowa Monday night before any votes were really counted. You might remember that when there was about 1 or 2% of the vote in on Monday before all vote reporting stopped because of the fiasco involving the app being used to communicate results in Iowa. Buttigieg was ahead for about 30 minutes by a couple points. Then it went to Bernie, but it was meaningless because we had no results at the time. And Mayor Pete came out and gave a victory speech and said, check out this video.
We don't know all the results, but we know by the time it's all said and done, Iowa, you have shocked the nation.
And then take a look at, this is a victory speech, and there were not yet any actual vote counts.
What a night! Because tonight, an improbable hope became an undeniable reality.
It's actually making me cringe. We just didn't have a count, and he's basically giving a victory speech. Now, Amy Klobuchar did a speech as well, but she was just kind of positive. She wasn't really implying or saying she won or even doing anything close to claiming victory. And then Buttigieg went on to say on Twitter, quote, Iowa, you have shocked the nation. By all indications, we are going on to New Hampshire victorious. Hashtag Iowa caucuses. Now, based on the data we have as of this filming, Pete Buttigieg does have a slight lead over Bernie Sanders. But there are essentially two possibilities for what took place here, and we're going to discuss both of them. He's getting crushed. The hashtag Mayor Cheat was trending on Twitter. He went on CBS yesterday morning trying to explain himself. Here's what he said.
The Sanders campaign also saying they're essentially victorious. There are people online saying that your claim of using the V word is, I think the hashtag is Mayor Cheat. In retrospect, do you think it was a little premature to take the stage and use the V word?
No, I mean, looking at what happened last night, looking at all of the data that we've got, it was an extraordinary night, and we are absolutely victorious coming into New Hampshire. I mean, this is a campaign that when we launched a year ago, people said, you're not a senator, you're not a national name.
Now, he still didn't have any results at the time that interview was filmed, and he's insisting that he's victorious coming into New Hampshire. So he was kind of doubling down and also backtracking, kind of saying, well, listen, what I didn't mean I literally won. What I meant was that given the odds against a mayor from a small town in Indiana as a general thing, regardless of the vote totals, I'm victorious merely because I got some delegates. And so I see myself as victorious moving on to New Hampshire. So there's two possibilities here. One is that this is like a super griftery consultant idea. Some consultant came up with, hey, let's just go out and claim victory. And then there will be headlines and you'll do a speech. And later we can reinterpret it as, I just meant that for a small town mayor to get delegates, that's a win. We don't even need to know the vote totals. And in fact, Mayor Pete was sort of a grifter consultant himself, so maybe it was actually his own idea to do it. The real problem here is that this doesn't stop with Mayor Pete in Iowa. Once candidates get into this idea of just claiming victory, even before there are votes, no matter what, you are opening the door to candidates claiming they won the Democratic nomination, multiple candidates claiming that they won, even if it hasn't actually been decided. You can get to November 3rd and Donald Trump claiming he won even before we have the actual numbers. And then that becomes what Trump supporters believe, even if later it turns out, actually, you didn't win, someone else won. Well, but Trump came out and said he claimed victory. It's a disastrous path to be going down. And this is 2020 America. That's the unfortunate reality. And we have to be prepared for a version of this in November. And even for the lead up to the eventual nominee on the Democratic side, to have this type of victory claim absent actual evidence. Now, there's another side to this, and we're going to dig into this more in a little bit. There is the idea, because a connection has been found between a consultancy group working on the Iowa caucus and Mayor Pete. There's the idea that the reason Mayor Pete went out and claimed victory was because he already knew that the vote counts would be manipulated in his favor and he would ultimately reign victorious. Now, I think it's important that, we find connections on Republican sides, and sometimes they're meaningful and sometimes they're not. And what you really have to understand is that in the incestuous world of politics and power in the United States, it's not surprising to keep running into the same people frequently. And we have to be more discerning than that, right? When Trump says he doesn't know Lev Parnas, and Parnas keeps showing up in videos talking to Trump about Marie Yovanovitch and whatever else, at a certain point, it starts to belie credulity. When it comes to the Mayor Pete thing, I don't think that we should attribute to malice what can be explained by incompetence, but I am not saying there is definitively nothing to see here when it comes to these consultant groups and Mayor Pete. Let's talk about that more in the next segment because it's important that we get this sort of under control before people go too far with it. I know that the David Pakman Show audience is full of curious and creative people who love learning new things and bettering themselves. And that's why I'm so excited to tell you about one of our sponsors, Skillshare, the vibrant online learning community that offers thousands of classes on almost any topic you can imagine. And you'll get full access to the entire library of classes for 2 entire months free when you go to davidpakman.com/skill. All of the classes are taught by experts in their fields. They've got classes on drawing, painting, photography, video editing, web design, bookkeeping, marketing, personal productivity. Doesn't even scratch the surface. I recently took a class about photography. If anybody follows me on Instagram, you know that my photography skills leave much to be desired. And it was great. I got so much out of it. And hopefully you will see the fruits of me taking that class reflected in my Instagram pictures sooner than later. They have classes for every skill level, whether you're wanting to get better at something you already have experience with, you want to learn something totally new to you. You set your own pace. Classes are usually less than an hour long. They're divided up into bite-sized segments so you can easily fit them into your schedule. Make 2020 a year where you explore new skills, deepen existing passions, get lost in creativity. Skillshare really makes it easier than ever. Skillshare memberships are less than $10 a month, and that gives you access to the thousands of classes they offer. But everybody in the David Pakman Show audience gets a Skillshare membership totally free for 2 whole months. Just go to davidpakman.com/skill. That's davidpakman.com/SKILL.